But the reality is that if you've got a plan for your own lasting financial confidence, then more than likely something is also going to be left over.
Peter, good to see you. I love today's topic, how to make sure your inheritance doesn't disappear. So I was really surprised by this study, Peter. I know that maybe you were a little less so, but this study found that 42% of heirs see their net worth fall back to or below pre-inheritance levels within just 1 year. This blew my mind. The average inheritance studied in this data, $133,000 gone in 1 year. So again, my jaw fell. What is driving this behavior, and why were you not as surprised?
Yeah, I was not as surprised, and I don't mean this in a demeaning way. Hopefully it does not come off that way, but a lot of times when we see this kind of, we'll call it a windfall that gets blown through rather quickly, it's because the people who receive it did not exemplify the behavior and the discipline that it took to build it in the first place. They were not used to or accustomed to dealing with wealth and having the behaviors and the discipline and the routines and the habits that got them to that point. And therefore, when they receive it, they go through it very quickly. And we've got a generation that is in the midst of what has been dubbed as the great wealth transfer, more personal net worth than ever in recorded history. That is, over the course of the next 20 to 30 years, changing hands from one generation to the next. And well, that next generation, if they are already on a path to financial success, probably in a place where they can handle that occurrence. But if not, I've heard it called professional waiters. There are people who are professional waiters, and I'm not talking about in a restaurant. I'm talking about they're waiting around for their inheritance so that they can blow it. And if you don't fly first class, then your kids will, right? They'll blow it pretty quickly. Also, I don't know if you've ever seen the show The Lottery Ruined My Life, but the inheritance is not the only place where we see this happen. A lot of times when people receive a windfall, they do blow through it really quickly. Also, the 133,000 average that this article cites, well, is that IRA money? So the beneficiaries that are receiving it didn't actually even get 133,000 because the IRS hasn't even gotten their fair share yet. Did the receiving generation have debts that they wanted to clean up? I see a lot of that happening. They receive an inheritance and say, well, this is a wonderful, meaningful gift. Now I'm going to clean up my own financial messes with this. So there's a number of reasons why I think that we are seeing inheritances spent through rather quickly. But the reality of that great wealth transfer, I think that probably we're going to see a third of that go to the IRS, a third of that go to the nursing home, and a third of that being split by the beneficiaries who are intended, unfortunately.
I'm glad you brought up lottery winners, though, because this study suggests that this behavior is more extreme than other financial windfalls. So why do you think an inheritance and how we spend that money is different?
Well, I think that in part, the beneficiaries do feel a little bit entitled to it. And again, they might be waiting around knowing that it's coming with some thought of what they're going to spend it on. And so when we've already got it in mind, and that's why during the planning process at Richon Planning, we never really include an inheritance until it actually happens. Number one, you never know what end of life expenses might come up. You might not get the inheritance. They might have written you out. You don't know for sure. But a lot of times the receiving generation, the beneficiaries, do have some indication of what they will be receiving and may have already thought it through and mentally earmarked that I'm going to spend it on X, Y, and Z. And so it happens just as soon as they receive it. And I don't know. I've even seen in this generation where we've got a little bit of the prodigal son scenario where people are wanting their inheritance before their parents even pass away. I strongly discourage that because, again, we never know what expenses might come up in life, and whatever's left behind, fantastic. send that on to your beneficiaries, but make sure that you have the financial security in place to float your own boat as long as you need to float it before giving and gifting away an inheritance early.
So let's talk specifics then. What mistakes do you see families make when passing down wealth?
Not passing the right assets. When it comes to kind of the order of operation in what is best to be left behind, a lot of us have that a little backwards. And there are assets that are more advantageous to leave behind than others, generally not your IRA. And listen, I'm sure a lot of people listening to this, viewing this right now are saying, well, I don't plan on leaving a great deal of wealth behind, or I don't want to leave a large inheritance. I want to spend my money. Listen, not a selfish sentiment at all. I think that that is very appropriate, and responsible children would probably applaud that notion. But the reality is that if you've got a plan for your own lasting financial confidence, then more than likely something is also going to be left over. And why not order your affairs in such a way that what is ultimately left over is the most efficient for your beneficiaries, not in the best interest of the IRS. And so those IRAs, which are some of our largest assets, the tax deferred retirement accounts, the 401ks, the IRAs that we've been building up in this generation over a lifetime of savings, often dwarfs the value of even our home, which used to be our largest investment. Now it's our IRA and 401k. But don't forget, you have not paid tax on that yet. Mm-hmm. The IRS will not forget that. Even if it changes hands and goes to your next generation and your beneficiaries, they're not going to forgive that either. They are one of the largest beneficiaries on IRA or any kind of tax deferred accounts. So stepped up cost basis on real estate, stepped up cost basis on non-qualified investment accounts, life insurance that passes tax-free, Roth IRAs. These are some of the more advantageous assets to leave behind. But there's even some rules and restrictions on some of those, like the Roth IRA has to be liquidated within 10 years. It falls under that Secure Act. And I think that the lack of communication between generations also leads to some of the things that are left over not being handled in an appropriate way. So we're transferring value. We should also be transferring values and having discussions about what is being gifted essentially across generations well ahead of time.
Right. Good point. So again, I'd like to talk through specifics. What strategies can help ensure an inheritance actually lasts? Because of course, yes, having that conversation early and often is important, but what else specifically?
Well, I think there are different strategies, but do we want that inheritance to last? Some of us do. We want our children's children to benefit from what we've built up. Some of us just want to leave a nice head start. Some of us want to leave just what's left behind. So I don't know that everyone has that generational wealth building mentality. And again, not selfish if you don't, but I think that if there is a plan in place, your plan in place that gives you a sense of lasting financial confidence, that's the biggest step in ensuring also that you do leave some kind of meaningful, impactful gift of legacy behind. And having conversations about that ahead of time, I think, is vitally important for making the most and the best and the biggest impact. So talking with your children about what they are responsible for, what you intend, having your legal documents in place. Thank you. Yes, Erin, the estate plan, as you see on the screen here, ladies and gentlemen, constitutes numerous things. Your beneficiary designations on your accounts, your legal documents, your will. Things might end up going through probate. There are certain things that can bypass the probate process. Have you streamlined that so as much of your estate bypasses probate as possible? Death not being the worst of all possible outcomes, as uplifting as that statement sounds. If you are alive but not competent or capable for making decisions on your own behalf, have you appointed the right person as your power of attorney, financially and medically? So all of these things constitute your estate plan. And
Mhm.
too many people, too often I see they've been doing very well financially, but have ignored the need to get all of this in place and can leave a mess, can leave family disputes, can leave the IRS as the biggest beneficiary behind when assets pass. So
Yeah,
you
and
need
I
to.
feel like the unsaid thing in the room is when it comes down to estate planning and even inheriting money after somebody's passed, is this is all emotionally charged, right? Creating an estate plan means talking about death, and receiving money after someone's passed. I'm going to be maybe emotionally wrecked and maybe not making the best financial decisions. So I'm sure, Peter, in your experience, that you recognize the importance of having a plan, especially when it comes to inheriting money.
It's going to make the emotional side of it that much easier, though,
Right,
Erin.
right.
And these things are the things that we cannot do the day after we need to have had them done. So deal with that emotion ahead of time, and there will be an easier time with the emotions ultimately when that time
Mhm,
comes
mhm,
that these plans and these documents go into effect. So
mhm.
yes, I get it. This, we're dealing with death, we're dealing with big decisions, and there is absolutely an emotional capacity here, and portion of this that is going to be highly charged. But again, if you leave these decisions unmade now, then your beneficiaries not only have to deal with the decisions, but compound that with the emotions. When if you have your affairs in order, just as a reminder and a little gentle nudge and push, ladies and gentlemen, get those done, because then your beneficiaries can deal with the loss that
Right,
occurs
right.
rather than having to scramble to make
Mhm.
financial decisions. And within a week of passing, conversations turn to finance and money.
Right.
I see it, it is almost universal.
And so, Peter, it can often help just to have a professional in the room with you when you have this conversation with your family, because it can lower the temperature,
Yep.
help keep it to nuts and bolts, and making sure that everybody's on the same page, which is the goal everybody has in the end. So, Peter, if somebody would like you in the room with them, your help walking through these really important topics, what's the best way to reach you?
Yeah, and we coordinate our conversations. So we have professionals in the legal world that we can coordinate with, in the tax world where that is necessary. And we love generational planning conversations when
Mhm.
our clients bring in their parents or bring in their children, or especially bring in their spouse. I think it's very important for both
Mhm.
spouses to be on the same page, which sometimes is not the case, but we love to have those conversations to make sure that these important topics are being addressed. And it's part of our process there to optimize all of this. And finally, that last pillar of planning, legacy, that everything that we've worked so hard for
Mhm.
is put in order. And so if you would like to have those conversations, give me a call, 919-300-5886, 919-300-5886. We do provide a document that you can share with your loved ones. We call it the Optimized Retirement Plan. It helps people outline where you are and where you want to get to from an income, investment, tax, healthcare, and legacy standpoint. And we try to help you put things in an optimal order of operations for hopefully the best results for you.
So important. Peter, thank you very much for your time today. I appreciate it.
Yeah, it is an important conversation. Thank you,
Mhm.
Erin. Always a pleasure. Hey folks, Peter Richon here with Richon Planning. So glad that you are enjoying the podcast, Planning Matters Radio. You know, one of the tools that we've put out there that people really seem to appreciate and really are finding of value is at 919retired.com. It is your retirement tax bill calculator. If you've got any kind of retirement account, your tax deferred, 401k, or IRA, this is the website, this is the resource where you can go, you can plug in your own numbers, your information, you can slide the tool calculator up and down for your tax rate or your amount of savings, and see what your tax bill is likely to be if you default and defer to the IRS's plan versus what you could potentially bring that tax bill down to. A lot of times it is a very significant savings. So if you have not yet, go to the website 919retired.com, run your numbers on the retirement tax bill calculator.
This has been Planning Matters Radio.
The content of this radio show is provided for informational purposes only and is not a solicitation or recommendation of any investment strategy. You are encouraged to seek investment, tax, or legal advice from an independent professional advisor. Any investments and/or investment strategies mentioned involve risk, including the possible loss of principal. Advisory services offered through Brookstone Capital Management, a registered investment advisor.
Fiduciary duty extends solely to investment advisory advice and does not extend to other activities such as insurance or broker-dealer services. Advisory clients are charged a quarterly fee for assets under management, while insurance products pay a commission, which may result in a conflict of interest regarding compensation.